All right, welcome to another deep dive. And this time we were going to be talking about the new Harry Potter TV series that HBO has announced.
Oh, very exciting.
It is exciting, but there's also, some things that we need to talk about that maybe aren't so exciting.
Yeah, there's definitely some things to unpack here for sure.
Yeah, so we've got casting news and some interesting comments from the actor who will be playing Dumbledore, John Lithgow.
Right, yeah. He had some interesting things to say.
And of course, we have the internet rumor mill churning out all kinds of theories.
Of course.
So we've got a lot to cover and a lot to get to the bottom of.
Definitely looking forward to it.
So HBO has said that they're going to do a decade-long series and they're going to adapt all the Harry Potter books, and they said they're going to be very authentic to the novels.
Okay.
But then John Lithgow, who's going to be playing Dumbledore, he gave an interview recently, and he said that the producers, when they pitched the series to him, that they made it all sound very new. So I don't know, that doesn't exactly sound like a strict adaptation, does it?
Yeah, that is a little curious, especially, like you said, HBO initially promised, really sticking to the source material and being very authentic.
Right.
And then for him to say, oh, it sounds new, it's like, what does new even mean?
Right.
Are we talking new perspectives on the characters? Are they going to go deeper into certain things? I mean, what could new even be in this context?
Yeah, it's weird. And I was thinking, maybe they're thinking about all the things that they couldn't quite fit into the movie.
Oh, that's true.
Because now that they have this TV format, it gives them a lot more room to kind of flesh things out.
Yeah, definitely a lot more breathing room in a TV series compared to a movie.
Yeah, so we could potentially see subplots fleshed out, characters that maybe we didn't see a whole lot of in the movies. We could see a lot more of them, and also there are things in the books that were left out of the movies, so maybe they'll add that stuff in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much potential there for the Ministry of Magic. We didn't see a whole lot of that in the movies. The history of Hogwarts itself, even all kinds of things. We could really immerse ourselves in that world in a way that we couldn't in the movies.
Yeah, and it's exciting to think about all that potential, right? But at the same time, I don't know, I feel like anytime anybody says new in regards to a really beloved franchise like Harry Potter, it kind of sets off alarm bells for me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just a little bit nervous. Are they going to change things too much?
Yeah, well, it feels like there's a real sensitivity with adaptations lately, especially with these big fantasy series. And especially after some of the, controversies with some of the other adaptations that have come out recently, like Rooms of Power, for example, or Wheel of Time.
Right.
Those got a lot of pushback because people felt like they were deviating too much from the source material.
Yeah, I saw one YouTube commentator even compare those adaptations to this new Harry Potter series and was suggesting that maybe there might be an attempt to, inject some kind of, they called it woke ideology into the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, this is just, one person's opinion, and it's caused a lot of debate online, but it's interesting how it kind of taps into this whole conversation about, the role of adaptation and how much it should reflect society's value.
Yeah, that's true. And it makes you think, should an adaptation strive to just be like a mirror of the original? Or is it okay for it to kind of evolve alongside how our understanding of things is changing in the world?
Right. And I think that's a really valid point. And it's especially interesting when you consider that J.K. Rowling herself has kind of added to the Harry Potter canon, after the books were published.
Yeah,
the biggest one, obviously, is the revelation about Dumbledore's sexuality. So, makes you wonder, what does preserving the integrity of the books even mean when the author herself is reinterpreting things?
Yeah, it gets complicated, right? Because then it's not just about sticking to the text exactly as it was written.
Right.
It's about, maybe capturing the spirit of the books, but also acknowledging that, things change, our understanding of things change.
Right, exactly.
And that's a really slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, okay, so let's move on to something else that's causing a lot of chatter online, which is the rumors about who they're going to cast as Professor Snape.
Oh, yes.
So Deadline is reporting that they're in final negotiations with an actor named Papa Essidou to play Snape.
Okay.
And he's an Emmy nominee, so he's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, he's a very talented actor.
Yeah, so this is where things get really interesting because Snape's appearance is very specifically described in the books.
Oh, it is, very much so.
Rowling really goes into detail about his looks. She talks about his greasy black hair, his hooked nose, his sallow skin.
Right.
He's even described as white-faced multiple times in the books.
And it's not just the books. Even before they started casting, there was merchandise and things like that. And even Rowling's own drawings of Snape always depicted him as white.
So to cast a black actor, it's pretty noticeable change from how we've always pictured the character.
Yeah, it would definitely be a departure. And I think it's something that people are going to have really strong opinions about on both sides.
On both sides, for sure.
Some people are going to see it as like a betrayal of the books and Rowling's vision. And others are going to be really excited about it and see it as a positive step towards inclusivity.
Yeah. And of course, HBO is not saying anything.
Oh, of course not.
They're being very tight-lipped.
Yeah.
And they're just saying that they'll announce things when the deals are final.
Right.
But even the rumors are enough to, set the internet on fire.
Oh, absolutely. It just goes to show how passionate people are about these books and these characters,
Yeah.
Every little detail matters to them.
Yeah, for sure.
What they look like, their backstory, everything.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it reminds us that adaptations aren't just about, taking the words from a book and putting them on a screen.
That's right.
It's about all these different interpretations and creative choices.
Yeah.
And, of course, navigating fan expectations.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah, it is. And, it can go really well or it can go really bad.
Exactly. I mean, you want to honor the source material, of course, but you also want to make it your own in a way.
Right.
And sometimes that tension, that push and pull, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, so it sounds like with this series, we've got a writer who doesn't want to just do a straightforward adaptation.
Right.
We've got an actor who's saying it sounds new. And we've got a potential casting choice that, could change how the story looks visually.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be very interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, so while we wait for HBO to officially confirm or deny any of these casting rumors, I think there's another perspective that's worth considering.
Okay.
So Andy Greenwald, he's one of the writers on the series.
Okay.
And he actually talked about adaptation on his podcast. It's called The Watch.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
So he actually said that he wouldn't be interested in just doing a faithful adaptation of the books. Instead, he wants to explore what he called other creative possibility within the Harry Potter world.
Oh, now that's interesting.
And he actually went on to say that, a rigorous text-to-screen adaptation of the books would probably be really successful, commercially.
Right. I mean, it's Harry Potter. It would probably make a ton of money.
But he said that he personally wouldn't want to be a part of that. So that kind of tells me that, this is a writer who really wants to do something different, something more than just rehashing what we've already seen.
Yeah, he wants to bring something new to the table.
Right. He wants to be innovative.
Yeah. Even if that means departing from the books a little bit.
Right. Exactly.
It sounds like he sees this as an opportunity to really expand the Harry Potter universe.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder what those other creative possibilities might be.
Oh, yeah. It really gets the imagination going.
For sure. For sure.
I mean, could we see new character, new storyline, maybe even new magical creatures or spells or things that weren't in the books at all?
It's so exciting to think about,
It is. It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
Right, because, what if they mess it up?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? What if they change too much?
Right. I mean, that's always the risk with adaptations, right?
Yeah, you're trying to please the fans of the original, but you also want to bring in new fans.
Right.
And it's hard to do both sometimes.
It is. It is.
It's a tough job, but I think they're up to the challenge.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they come up with.
Exactly. I mean, that's all we can do at this.
Yeah. So that's it for this part of our deep dive into the new Harry Potter TV series.
All right.
We've talked about John Lithgow's interesting comment about the series sounding new.
Right.
And we've talked about the challenges of adapting a beloved story like Harry Potter, especially in the context of, our changing values in society.
Yeah, definitely a lot to consider there.
And of course, we talked about those Snape casting rumors that are causing all kinds of debate online.
Right, big one.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper and we'll talk about some fan theories.
Oh, fun.
About what those new elements might be.
Damn.
And we'll talk about what it would take for this adaptation to really be considered as. All right, until next time.
See you then. It's so interesting how much this whole conversation keeps coming back to this tension between wanting to see the story exactly as we imagined it, but also wanting something more.
Yeah. We want the familiar, but we also want something unexpected.
Exactly. And I think that's really at the heart of the whole debate about adaptations, right? How much can you change before it's not the same story anymore?
Right. Where's the line?
Yeah. And I don't think there's an easy answer to that.
No, definitely not.
It depends on so many things, what's the story, who's making it, what's the medium, and then, of course, there's the fans and what they're expecting.
Yeah, and speaking of fan expectations, there's been a lot of talk online about, potential race swapping, especially with the Snape casting rumors.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Some people are totally fine with it. Some people see it as like a huge betrayal.
Right. It's definitely a divisive issue.
And I think it's important to like acknowledge that there are valid arguments on both sides.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where the whole adaptation conversation intersects with like bigger conversations about representation, inclusivity.
Yeah.
You know, on the one hand, you have people who are saying that a character's appearance, especially when it's described in so much detail in the books, that it's like part of who they are.
Yeah.
And if you change that, it's like you're erasing something fundamental about them.
And I get that, you know? I mean, it's about respecting the author's choices.
Right.
And understanding that, like, how a character look might be tied to their backstory or their personality.
Right.
It's not just a random detail.
But then on the other hand, you have the argument for inclusive casting.
Yeah.
And people are saying that it not only allows a wider range of actors to play these characters, but it also makes the story more relatable, more accessible to a more diverse audience.
And that's so important, right? Like, everybody deserves to see themselves in the stories they love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about representation. It's about saying that, you know, a character's essence, it goes beyond what they look like.
Right.
It's about their values, their motivations, their relationships.
Yeah. So it's tricky, right? Like, how do we navigate this? Where do we draw the line?
Right. How do you honor the source material while also, like, making space for these important conversations?
Yeah. And I don't know if there is a right answer.
I don't think so either.
Maybe it's more about, like, just having open and respectful dialogue.
Yeah, I think that's key.
Acknowledging everyone's concerns.
Right, and understanding that everyone's coming to this with their own experiences, their own perspectives.
Right, and at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is that the adaptation captures the spirit of the original.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it needs to evoke those same emotions, explore those same themes.
Make you feel something, you know?
Yeah, and connect with the audience on that deeper level, even if the details are different.
Exactly, it's about the heart of the story.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's what makes this whole conversation so interesting to me. Like, we're watching this story evolve.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see what happens next.
So we've talked about Lithgow's new comment, and we've talked about, you know, adaptation in the context of all these social changes happening.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Snape casting rumors. But there's one more thing I wanted to touch on, and it's Andy Greenwald, the writer, who said he wasn't interested in just doing a faithful adaptation.
Right. He had some interesting things to say.
Yeah, so in another episode of his podcast, he actually goes into more detail about his vision for the series.
Oh, cool. I'd love to hear about this.
And he talks about seeing the Harry Potter world as like this huge, intricate tapestry with all these stories waiting to be told.
Oh, wow. I love that imagery.
And he's not interested in just retelling the same stories. He wants to explore like the hidden corners.
Oh, yeah. The stuff we haven't seen before.
Untold tales.
Like behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. And he actually compares it to a theme park.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says that the main attractions are great, but sometimes the smaller, less explored areas are the ones that give you the most unique experience.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, and it's perfect because it captures that idea of expanding the world without taking away from what's already there.
Right, it's about adding to it, not replacing it.
Exactly, like deepening our understanding of the characters, the magic, the history.
And it fits with what a lot of adaptations are doing these days, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about retelling the story, it's about expanding the universe.
Like we see it with Marvel movies, Star Wars, even video games.
It's all about taking something we love and making it even bigger.
But of course, that comes with its own challenges, right?
For sure.
How do you make sure the new stuff fits with what's already established?
Right. How do you make it feel authentic?
And how do you avoid making the fans angry?
Yeah, because they can be very protective.
They can.
It's a tough line to walk.
It is. Right. But, you know, if they can pull it off, it could be amazing.
It could be. It really could.
It's all about finding that balance between doing something new and respecting what came before.
And ultimately, I think it comes down to the audience, you know?
Yeah.
Did they like it? Did it work for them?
Did it feel like Harry Potter?
Exactly.
It's a subjective thing.
It is.
And we all have our own opinion.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
So we started with this question of, you know, what does success look like for this adaptation?
Right.
And I don't think we've answered it.
I don't think we have either.
But we've talked about a lot of things.
We have. We've talked about the challenges,
opportunity,
the fan expectations,
and just the whole like idea of what it means to adapt something.
It's a big conversation.
It is.
And it's one that's worth having.
For sure.
So I guess the question now is, what do you think?
What are your hopes for this series?
What would make it a success for you?
What changes would you be open to?
And what would be a deal breaker?
Think about it. And join us for part 3, where we'll dive into some fan theories and talk about what a successful adaptation could mean for the future of the Harry Potter world. All right, so we spent a lot of time in the last 2 parts talking about all the serious stuff, you know, the challenges of adaptation, the fan expectations, all that.
Yeah, we've been in the weeds.
But I think it's time to have a little bit of fun.
I agree.
Let's tap into that pure fan excitement.
Let's speculate.
Yeah, let's speculate, because the internet is already full of theories about what this new series might have in it.
Oh, it is. Yeah, the rumor mill is churning.
So I've seen some really creative ones.
Oh, yeah.
Like one that I saw was about exploring the history and politics of the wizarding world in more detail.
Oh, that would be so...
Like imagine seeing the founding of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Or like the inner workings of the Ministry of Magic.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Or even like the Wizarding Wars that happened way back when.
Yeah, it would add so much depth to the story,
Right. And you could see how all that stuff from the past actually affects the characters and the conflicts that we see in the present.
Exactly. It would make it so much richer and more complex.
And I think a lot of fans are curious about that stuff, like the history and the lore.
Oh, absolutely. Like peeling back the layers of the world.
Another one that I thought was really cool was about seeing more of the Marauders.
Oh, the Marauders, yes.
James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, Peter Pettigrew.
We only got glimpses of them in the book.
Yeah, but imagine seeing their whole time at Hogwarts.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Their friendship, their rivalries, their adventures.
It would be a whole new layer to the story.
But still connected to the stuff that we already know and love.
Yeah, it would be a great way to expand the universe without going too far off track.
And then, of course, there are always theories about new characters.
Of course.
New creatures, new spells, new potions.
I mean, it's endless, the possibilities.
Yeah, it's like the fans are just taking what Rowling created and running with it.
And that's what's so great about being a fan, You get to be creative, you get to use your imagination.
It's like we're all contributing to the story in a way.
Yeah, it's like a shared universe.
But of course, even if they do come up with some really cool new stuff, there's always the chance that some fans aren't going to.
Oh, definitely. Change is hard.
Especially when it's something that you love so much.
It's like you want to see it grow and evolve.
Yeah.
But you also don't want it to lose what made it special in the first place.
It's a delicate balance.
And I think the people making this series, they have a huge responsibility.
Oh, they do, for sure.
They're not just adapting a story, they're shaping a legacy.
It's a big deal.
It is. And I think they have the potential to create something really special.
Something that honors the original, but also brings something new to the table.
Yeah, something that will appeal to old fans and new fans alike.
So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on them.
There is.
But, I'm trying to be optimistic.
Me too.
I think they know what they're doing.
I hope so.
And I think they're going to try their best to get it right.
I think so too.
And, at the end of the day, all we can do is wait and see.
That's true.
And, keep talking about it, keep the conversation going.
Keep the magic alive.
So that's what we've been trying to do in this deep dive.
We've talked about a lot.
We have. We've talked about the challenges of adaptation.
The different perspectives on it.
What makes a good adaptation.
And, of course, all the exciting possibilities.
And what it could mean for the future of the Harry Potter world.
Yeah. It's been a fun conversation.
It has. It has. So now we want to hear from you.
What do you think?
What are your hopes for the series?
What would make it a success for you?
What are you excited about?
What are you worried about?
Let us know. Keep the conversation going, because that's what it's all about,
Yeah, it's about sharing our love for this story.
And connecting with other fans.
And keeping the magic alive.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.